Imagine tracing the footsteps of a humble carpenter from a small village, only to realize that every path he walked was part of a grand story far bigger than himself. This is the story of Jesus Christ, told not just in moments and words, but on the map of a land that witnessed his journey from birth to resurrection. We'll walk with him from a quiet cave in Bethlehem, through the hills of Nazareth, across Galilee, down to the streets of Jerusalem, stopping at every twist and turn in the narrative of a life that changed the world. 1. The beginning. Bethlehem and flight to Egypt. Our journey begins in Bethlehem. The ancient prophecies whispered of a king born in that little town, but instead of luxurious halls, his arrival was marked in modest surroundings. He was born among animals, with shepherds keeping watch in nearby fields, and curious wise men arriving from the east. Then darkness fell. The powerful King Herod the Great, driven by fear of this newborn King of the Jews, ordered the slaughter of children. To protect the child, Joseph and Mary fled to Egypt until the danger had passed. This early leg of the journey already echoes tumult and promise. 2. Nazareth. Growing up quietly. Once the danger faded, the family returned and settled in Nazareth. Here, Jesus spent his childhood, not as a royal prince, but as a carpenter's son. He lived among ordinary families, experienced regular rhythms of work and worship, and developed in wisdom and stature. The map may show a small dot labeled Nazareth, but the significance is vast. This is where the ordinary meets the extraordinary. These early years give him roots, something grounded, so that when his public ministry begins, it's not detached from life, but deeply entwined. 3. Jordan River and Wilderness, the threshold. When Jesus reached about 30 years old, he left the modest home life behind and stepped into his public role. At the Jordan River, he was baptized by John the Baptist, marking both a beginning and a public declaration of identity. Shortly afterwards, he withdrew into a wilderness, 40 days of temptation, silence, confrontation, and resolve. On the map, this may appear as a minor shift, but in spiritual terms, it was a heavy turning point. The man born in Bethlehem was now stepping into his role, with the wilderness behind him and the crowd ahead. 4. Galilee. Ministry takes flight. Next, we travel northwest to the shores of the Sea of Galilee. The map lights up with towns: Capernaum, Cana, Bethsaida, all places where Jesus preached, healed, and gathered followers. In Galilee, the ordinary and the miraculous meet. He turns water into wine at a wedding in Cana. He calls fishermen by the lakeside. On a hill, he delivers the famous sermon, wisdom for the everyday, direct to the heart. The map might show a compact area, but the events are far-reaching. It's in Galilee that the carpenter's son becomes a teacher, a healer, a provocateur of religious norms. He tells stories everyone can understand. He touches the untouchable. He shakes tradition and invites people into possibility. 5. The journey south towards Jerusalem. Having stirred Galilee, Jesus turns his face toward Jerusalem. The map traces his path southward, through Samaria, into Judea, crossing the Jordan again, heading uphill into the holy city. This movement was no whim. It was purposeful. The very map of his life arcs toward the place of confrontation. On this route, the landscape shifts. More crowds, more resistance, more questions. He cleanses the temple, debates with religious leaders, and claims authority in unexpected ways. The map now becomes a tension-filled zone, the place where he says things like, "I am the way," and "the Son of Man must suffer." He's no longer the carpenter alone. He's the one who bends history. 6. Jerusalem. Passion. Week. Jerusalem, the city of kings. The city of sacrifice. On the map, it stands as the climax of the journey. From his entrance on a humble donkey to his final days in the Garden of Gethsemane, and then the path through the streets of the Old City, including the route today known as Via Dolorosa, every step is charged. In the temple courts, he flips tables. In quiet rooms, he washes feet. In the garden, he sweats drops like blood. On the cross, he accomplishes the unthinkable. The Son of God becomes a suffering human. The map has brought us from Bethlehem's cave to Golgotha's skull-shaped hill. 7. Resurrection and road. Appearances, one map might mark Jerusalem, but beyond is something greater. An empty tomb, appearances in Galilee again, meetings by the sea, final commands on a mountain. The journey doesn't end at death, it begins with it. Jesus walks through locked doors, travels on the road to Emmaus, eats breakfast by the lake with disciples. The map might not show these all in high detail, but the trajectory is clear, from humble birth to victory over death. The carpenter becomes the King of Kings. The humble man becomes the hero of humanity. 8. What the map teaches. Us walking this path on the map teaches several things. Fulfillment of prophecy. From Bethlehem to the temple, from a virgin birth to ministry in Galilee, the geography lines up with ancient expectations. Ordinary beginnings, extraordinary purpose. A humble start in Nazareth. Bethlehem doesn't limit destiny. Deliberate progression. The move from Galilee toward Jerusalem is not accidental. It's central to his mission. Life shaped by movement. He walked many miles, crossed boundaries, touched places everyday people knew. His life wasn't isolated. Hope beyond the grave. The map doesn't end with Golgotha. It arcs to the empty tomb and the mountain of commission. 9. Clearing up. Common misconceptions. People often think the Christmas story is just a cozy stable and a starlight moment. Yes, those exist, but remember that the journey doesn't stop at Bethlehem. It continues through danger, rejection, death, and resurrection. It's tempting to imagine Jesus only preaching in Jerusalem, but no, his ministry was rooted in Galilee, in ordinary towns. The map shows more lakeside miracles than temple proclamations. Some think his story ends at the cross, but the map includes post-resurrection appearances. The empty tomb changes everything. We might see him as distant or inaccessible, but the map shows him walking ordinary paths, through fields, towns, and hills. He's with people, not above them. 10. Why this story matters for science. Because when we trace this map, we realize that each of us lives in our own Galilee and Jerusalem. We have moments of quiet in Nazareth, where growth happens. We face deserts of temptation. We walk thousands of choices toward where we will stand. And here's the key. The same Jesus who walked those roads invites you into the story. The carpenter king who fulfilled prophecy says, "Follow me." The man who conquered death says, "Hope is for you." So when you feel small, remember Bethlehem. When you feel stuck, remember Galilee. When you feel like giving in, remember the road to Jerusalem and the empty grave beyond. Final thought and call to action. If you'd like to dive deeper into the places, maps, and story of Jesus' life, maybe trace his footsteps yourself through old towns, lake shores, and hills, then let this be your open invitation to explore more deeply than ever before. Imagine standing where he once stood, walking along the same dusty paths, and seeing the landscapes that shaped the greatest story ever told. Picture the morning light over Galilee, the whisper of the wind across ancient stone streets, and the quiet echo of faith that still lingers in the places he once called home. This is more than a journey across maps. It's a journey of the heart, an invitation to rediscover the living story of Christ in ways that are both personal and profound. It's a chance to connect faith with history, to bridge time and space, and to turn the pages of Scripture into living, breathing moments you can see, touch, and feel. Every path tells a story, every landmark holds a lesson, and every step brings you closer to understanding the depth of his love and purpose. Subscribe now and join our growing community where we walk with Jesus together, step by step, through every map marker and moment of his life. Together, we'll reflect deeply, discuss openly, and uncover the rich layers of meaning behind every place he touched, every word he spoke, and every miracle he performed. As we explore, we'll not only see the world he walked through, but experience the transformation he brings to the hearts of those who follow him. Subscribe now and be part of the journey, a journey that brings the story of the carpenter who became king to life in your heart, your mind, and your world. Let this be your moment to walk with purpose, learn with passion, and grow in faith as you follow in his steps.